Hello, Watch Your Chat here with your reminder that life is short. Buy the watch. Today we're talking about the Rolex Submariner, and this is the no date version, which is the original, I guess, that had no date, and then we've got the date version with the Cyclops at the 3 o'clock. I prefer the no date because I just like the symmetry of the dial, and also I believe that these are a bit easier to get. So it's a ceramic insert with sapphire glass, very clean, highly visible dial. And being a dive watch, of course, that has to be one of the criteria. I do think that the text is a little bit heavy on the sub, though, down the bottom here. But that's probably a little, I wouldn't really call it a gripe. It's probably just a visual thing. And with this pip, I think it's called, you just have a closer look at versions of this watch and you'll see that there's a little bit of discoloration around them. And I think that's just the adhesive that's used. It's a stainless steel watch with a brushed finish around the case and the bracelet. Really nice brushed finish. And look, this has a protective coating on it, but I just put that on afterwards for a bit of fun. But I wore this watch a fair bit without it, and it eats up the wear really well. Clamshell style clasp, pull that forward and like that, or you can just squeeze it on both ends. That seems to be pretty easy. Really nice glide lock system that just gives a lot of adjustability for when your wrist swells in the heat. One thing I'd say about this, and I'm not sure if this one's got anti-reflective coating, but it seems to reflect a lot. Regardless, what I'd say about this watch is that it's a bit odd that you've got ceramic finish with sapphire, which keeps that all clean, but then highly polished sides, which in my view, that'll just invariably scratch over time. And so this will always look new, whereas the sides will look old eventually. I guess that's nothing a polish can't solve, but I like the shape of the watch, and each time you polish it, you do lose a bit of shape. So it's just a bit weird. But look, other than that, there's not much wrong with the watch. A lot of people think it's boring, but I think it's very important to have a watch like this in your collection. Let's check the lume. As expected for a diver of this quality, it's just really great lume. Let's That bezel action is probably the best bezel action in any diver. It's just so tight and just so tactile. It's just a nice bezel. Now, the other thing I would say is 21 mil on this version from the lug width, and that's a bit odd. The previous one was 20 and doesn't really fit any of my straps perfectly. You can see my strap roll there. Doesn't really fit the straps perfectly, but they still fit. But I also find that these spring bars are really hard to move without damaging it. You can see I've scratched it up there if you can just look closely. I find it's almost like Rolex make it hard to remove those spring bars and you scratch it all up. And I think that it's also quite sharp, so it seems to tear up leather too. And sometimes it can get really hard and tight to get your straps in there. So yeah, the story behind this one was, look, I walked into a authorized Rolex AD, and I'll probably call them salesman more than AD because they don't really know much about watches, and they bloody laughed me out of the store, right? And so they're probably more about just sitting there. Watches kind of sell themselves; they don't have to sell it to you, so they don't really care, and it's a pretty piss poor attitude, right? But it really upset me. I went to another boutique after that, bought a Seiko diver, but then went into another dealer and shared that story with them. They were sort of sympathetic towards me. They sort of had heard about that AD in particular, and I just said, look, I'm not interested in Rolex. Show me what else you've got. And look, I was probably a bit naive thinking I could get this watch straight up. I didn't know anything about watches. And so what happened was I actually started a journey with this new AD and bought a series of watches along the way. And he suggested I put my name down for one of these watches anyway, and so look, I did, and I was really off them, but then I threw it on the wrist, and once you have a Submariner on the wrist and the way it fits and the way it wears, there's not too many other watches that can match that in terms of sports watches anyway. So then I think it was about 6 or maybe even 12 months later, I got the phone call, and that fine AD got me the Submariner. So that's the story of the Sub. If you like that video, please click like and subscribe. And remember, life is short. Buy the watch.